Jess.
Hello. Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
You've had a really busy London Collections Men, as always, because you were casting the McQueen show, which you've done for a number of years now. Tell me a little bit about this season, because I saw you really briefly at the show and you said, we're doing a couple of things that are different. You found some great new boys. Tell me about what was going on for this show.
Well, when I spoke to Sarah and Joe McKenna, the stylist, before the show, we thought it would be good to choose some different looking guys. So we thought about using guys with longer hair, which is something that we haven't done before at McQueen. It's always a very fluid thing, casting. As you're in the studio, things change a lot, and you move. Things move quite swiftly. But when we got into it and we found the people, we thought that they looked good, actually.
And were most of them agency cast, or did you do any street casting?
No, they were agency casting, but I do street casting, and I did do some, but we didn't use them in that show.
And tell me, it's interesting because going to the men's shows, one thing that I think is you look sort of from runway to runway, and not to sound too critical, but the casting feels very similar. You feel like you're seeing the same boys, the same kind of flow at each show. How do you, obviously for something like McQueen, you really do want to make it stand out. How do you make that happen? How do you avoid it?
Well, Well, I think there are lots of. Usually there are only so many models who are any good, so everybody's fighting to have those guys, unless you've got a very specific brief about what you want. There were a few shows that I saw on the internet where designers have used a very specific thing to make their show look different. I think it is important to have an identity with the casting, and I think that we did look different at McQueen because we used probably a few models that nobody else had used. I don't know why they didn't, but that's the case. And also we changed it where we used guys with long hair as well as the other models.
And tell me a bit, it's interesting just to talk about kind of like the diversity of male casting, because I do feel like in a way that you just aren't seeing quite yet with the women's wear, that you see so many kind of different types of guy at the men's shows. You see older guys, you see more diverse ethnicities, you see more diverse ages. Is it in a way like not easier, but do you feel like you have more flexibility when you're casting a men's show as opposed to a women's show, or is that too simplistic?
I wouldn't say it's easier at all. In fact, maybe if you'd said that to me 5 years ago, it might have been, because there wasn't the same amount of pressure. But I think that the men's shows now have reached a level where they are completely on their own. They stand completely on their own, and they are, just as important. The amount of work that goes in. The only thing that I would say is that the men, for me anyway, there's less extremes in the body shape. With a woman, it could be much more shapely with a bigger hips and a smaller waist or a bigger boob, or I think women's shapes fluctuate a bit more than men's.
That's interesting.
Unless you're talking about guys with big muscles or something like that, which I don't tend to do. I don't tend to work on those castings. But
and why do you think that is? That it's so kind of like they have to be.
Oh, why do I think what is?
Why do you think that they have to be kind of such a uniform body shape? Is it in a way kind of harder to?
I don't think it's uniform, but I think that dressing a man is probably whether he's older or younger. There's less change, I would say.
Yeah, that is true. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
And tell me about kind of, do you think there is a kind of, when I interviewed you a while ago about casting McQueen shows, kind of, when you were working alongside Alexander McQueen himself, and you talked about how he never really had a McQueen girl. It was more these kind of like idea of a sense of spirit or a sense of, a personality, and it was really changeable depending on the show. Is that similar with the McQueen man, or would you say that there is a kind of like McQueen boy?
No, I think that still remains the same. I think that it really depends on the collection, really depends on, I think it's important for things to move along. Fashion is about change and about surprise and about, showing different ideas. And so I think it's important to keep it changing.
You must be, you must be an exciting one to work on in a way, because I guess given that focus on change, it does feel like the casting always relates to the theme of the show, always relates to kind of the sensibility of that season. So I imagine you can't really get stuck in a rut with a McQueen show, can you?
Well, no, but I also, exactly. And I think that you need to be brave in casting. I think you need to, I'm sure it's the same in film or in theatre, which is three-dimensional compared to fashion, which is probably quite two-dimensional. But I think that you need to be brave. It's like, yes, let's go for it. Let's change. You can feel bored or tired very easily if things always look the same. Or I'm sure if you're in the audience and you're watching the same people go up and down all the time. I don't know. I don't think I've only ever been to 2 shows. I don't know, but I don't know what you mean. But I'm sure it's nice for the audience to see something different.
Well, you want an intriguing character, don't you? You want to look at it and not just think that you're just looking at a kind of a generic kind of frame for a pair of trousers or a blazer. You want to look at it and be intrigued by who that man is.
Yes, exactly. And also, is he, who is he? Is he a businessman? Is he like an East End thug? Is he is he somebody from the south of France being really like suave by the sea? I mean, there's so many different people that you could, there's so many different people that you could think of, identities to put into the show or any show.
Well, you've got a busy time now, haven't you? Because Men's are still going and you're still casting. So I'll let you get
I'm in Italy at the moment.
Is it different in Italy to in London, casting?
Well, there are a lot more models. There's a lot of new people to see. I think there's a lot more models in Italy. So, it's good to see a lot of people. But more or less, I think it's, overall it's casting is casting. I don't think it's that different.
Well, you did a very good job of it. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you very much, Lou.